Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Try to Steal Money from Our Family? You're not seeing the big picture. Shortly after my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, my formerly estranged half-brother quit his job and moved in to help take care of my dad. Though there really wasn't enough money, it was agreed to pay him around $300 a week to make up for his missing income. During this time, my half-brother abruptly acquired the durable power of attorney and usurped medical and financial. My mother and father had separate financial lives decisions. Several documents relating to my dad's pension, which were now my half-brother's responsibility, were not turned in on time, resulting in my dad missing out on a one-time payout of $8,000 and lowering his pension payout by $300 per month. My half-brother then cleaned out my dad's remaining savings, about $3,000, not discover until about a month later. 6 days later, our father hung himself in the basement. My dad left all of his insurance money and belongings to my mother. Us children were left with only sentimental items. My half-brother was visibly upset and shaking when the will was read. He acknowledged that my mother was receiving everything and left. About a month later we discovered the missing money. Though he broke no laws because he had power of attorney, we insisted he pay it back, even offered to let him make payments over a 2-year period. He refused and we have been no contact for 2 years now. Little did he know that he was in my mum's, his stepmother's, will. He would receive half of what is currently a $250,000 estate. I suggested to my mother that she remove him from the will. She did, and I am now the sole beneficiary. He stole $3,000 now, only to lose out on $125,000 later. The next one is titled, Cut Me Off and Almost Kill Me? There's a number on the back of your truck for a reason. I was driving down a small country road with a 45 miles per hour speed limit that some choose to ignore. And coming up behind me was a standard work truck. I won't name names, but it was a popular automotive parts store delivery truck, and got right on my bumper. I'm not in a tiny car, but it's a sedan, and he was so close that all I saw was grille and hood in my mirrors. While I stayed doing the speed limit, after about 3 minutes he decided that a sharp curve was the perfect time to pass me, and surprise, surprise, there was a car coming after the curve. He swerved at me and I slammed the brakes, nearly missing his bumper. Thankfully I had this all on dash cam, front and back. I got home later and got the footage on my laptop and called their 1800 number with his plate number and his truck number. The woman I spoke to was super apologetic and she asked me to send her the video. She watched it while on the line with me and immediately asked if she could put me on hold. I said yes, and a few minutes go by and she gets back and brings me someone else on the line. The local store manager of that driver. She had sent him the video and the manager apologized for a ton and promised me right then and there that employee was terminated for that behavior. A few weeks go by and I don't hear anything till a friend of mine on Facebook sends me a link. The driver that was fired managed to get my name from his HR or manager or something and was trying to find me IRL because he lost his job, and made a video wearing his work uniform threatening violence on me because of everything. I went to my local PD station about it and showed them the video and explained everything, and was told I needed to speak to that company again because they let my name get out. I called them and told them everything going on, and I was told I'd get a call from their HR department within 2 to 3 business days. Literally 6 hours later I received a call from some higher-up HR person with one of their legal team on the phone. They wanted me to sign a document stating I won't publicly go after them or give negative PR if they sue him for me, and get a restraining order and everything on this guy for what he threatened. They even offered to have a lawyer of my choosing go over it with me at no cost to me and sign it and have them handle it. Another few more weeks go by and that friend on Facebook, he knows that guy's family or something, said that the dude's mum posted some sob story that her son is going through some expensive court case that he likely won't win because the other team is over 10 lawyers. So not only lost his job but then tried to find me only to have his ex-employer sue him. The next one is titled, Harass My Parents? I'm bringing my uncle into this. My parents had me when they were plenty young. They were not teens anymore but had barely left that age bracket. My mum and dad met in college. That was also when they had me. So while my parents were in their courses, I mostly stayed with my grandparents. The whole family lives in the same area. And the college was not that far away. My parents were still young and liked to go out with friends on occasion. When the following happened, I was a few years old. On occasion, they frequented a bar. A drunk guy there groped my mum and did not take a no as a no. My dad intervened and stopped the guy. And half an hour later all seemed forgotten. The music was loud, the bar crowded, and then someone in the crowd hit my dad with an empty glass pitcher square in the face. He was bleeding profusely and collapsed. But in the press, semi-darkness and over the music, no one knew who did it. My dad got taken to the hospital. He had a broken nose and a heavy concussion. He also couldn't see who had attacked him, and his memory between the alcohols and being hit in the head was also very fuzzy. Of course, they had considered the guy who had harassed my mum, but they didn't know him, nor did they see him anywhere leading up to the moment, let alone have any evidence. So they pressed charges against the unknown. But there was virtually nothing anyone could do. But then a few days later, the piece of crap that had harassed my mum approached her on campus. Turns out he was in the same college as my parents. He made a few veiled comments and left little doubt that it had been him that hit my dad in the face. And the piece of garbage let my mum know that my dad next time should mind his manners. And that the little touching he had done didn't hurt anyone and wasn't that bad. And if he wanted to do it again, he would, and maybe more. And then the piece of crap went on his merry way. My mum was horrified, of course. She went home and told my grandparents, my dad, and his parents. But no one could do anything. It was a he said, she said deal after all. And my mum hadn't even gotten the guy's name. My mum cried a lot at that time and didn't know what to do. She also was afraid of going to classes or out alone. I honestly only remember that time very scarcely. I was just a little kid. But I can remember my dad in the hospital and with his broken nose. And my mum crying a lot. My dad, of course, was just as angry and humiliated as my mum. No one knew what to do. And everyone was treading on eggshells around each other. But that is where my uncle enters the stage. My uncle, my mum's brother, lived on the other side of the country. He was a pie. And he was, of course, the last to hear the full story. But the moment he heard someone had threatened his little sister, he was on his way home. After hearing the full story, my uncle knew it would likely be hard to get the guy on the harassment, the assault, or the threats. Having no evidence, my uncle had my mum point the guy out from afar on campus. It took a few days to find him. But then my uncle started to stalk that piece of human filth. My uncle took sick days, all his vacation, and invested every second possible to find out everything about the harasser. My uncle even approached the pig in another bar and became drinking buddies with him. Over several weeks my uncle had uncovered all manners of illicit behavior. Possession, consumption, and distribution of drugs. Theft. And a few other misdemeanors and small-time stuff. And my uncle could have put him away for that. But my uncle always said when asked about that if he sent the a-hole to prison, it would be for molesting my mum and hurting my dad. And that is what he did. One night while out with his new buddy drinking, my uncle made the idiot piss drunk and they landed in my uncle's motel room. He got the harasser to incriminate himself on video, rattling off a list of illegal crap he was up to. My uncle had, of course, pretended to be a crook too. Among the stories asshole told was the story of how he groped some chick and brained her dude with a pitcher of beer. Now, something needs to be said. In my country, of course, recording someone in secret is illegal, and under some conditions, like if the police do it, it is not a permissible piece of evidence in court. But as a pie, my uncle knew that laws for that exactly. But paradoxically, the situation is different if it is not only audio but also video. And my uncle had the a-hole on camera confessing. The next day my uncle turned himself in to the police, with all his collected evidence. Because secretly filming people was still a crime. though the video could be used as evidence in court, as my uncle was not affiliated with the police or any other governmental agency. When the criminal trial and the civil trial were over, the asshole got 6 years in prison and had to pay damages to my mum and dad. The next one is titled, "Want to make a Girl Scout trip awful for a few of my friends, I'll help them get you banned." This isn't quite my revenge story, but I did play a part in it. It's also going to be a long one. So I was in Girl Scouts for almost 10 years, and from September 2005 to October 2006 I had this awful Girl Scout leader who clearly didn't like me very much. I didn't fit her. Everyone in my troop needs to have a type of personality, mentality. And she did a lot of really awful stuff to me. She knew I was terrified of dogs. I was attacked by 2 dogs in a public park as a young child, and highly allergic, and didn't inform me that a search and rescue dog would be visiting our troop. Then used me as the target for a demonstration, causing me to nearly pass out due to the combination of the panic and allergy attacks I had. The handler refused to sign the paperwork for the badge activity, and instead of picking another activity to do to complete the badge, the leader decided we would earn the badge, and blamed me. She cancelled a community cookie sale I was scheduled to run with another girl and her mother because I had to duck out of it the last minute because I got sick, and blamed me. She put me in charge of a magazine subscription fundraiser I told her I wouldn't be able to run because of academic commitments. It inevitably failed, and she not only blamed me but kicked me out of her troop. I joined another troop, and the leader turned her desire for a scapegoat to another 2 girls on my troop, one of whom I went to school with. This will be important later. Now in April of 2007 the troop took a Girl Scout sponsored and funded trip to London during school vacation week that the council in our area put a significant amount of money into. And I feel like I need to explain because it's relevant to the story. Girl Scouts is very strict when it comes to lodging accommodations for overnight trips, camping or otherwise. Under no circumstances may girls stay in the same room or building for camping trips as an adult male. I was in a troop where one of our assistant leaders was a troop member's father. When we went on weekend camping trips, he had to sleep in a tent outside the lodge we stayed in, and when the troop went to Savannah, Georgia, he wasn't allowed to stay in the same room as his own daughter. Well, this awful troop leader decided to save some money by staying in co-ed adult hostels while in London, but told the Girl Scout Council that they would be staying in hotels. None of the girls or parents of the girls were remotely okay with this decision, but the leader basically told them, "I'm the leader, we do what I say, and if anyone says anything, I'll make sure you get kicked out of the organization." I don't exactly know what happened on the trip because, well, I had already been kicked out of that troop, but from what I heard from the girl I went to school with, their lodging accommodations were terrifying and most of the girls found themselves too scared to sleep. One night a guy was strutting around the hostel in his birthday suit and would make lewd comments to the girls, who were between the ages of 12 and 15. One night one of the girls woke up to another guy just staring at her while she slept, and the leader didn't see anything wrong with it. She just brushed it off, saying, "Well, that will sometimes happen when you stay at hostels." The 2 girls, and everyone else on the troop, wanted to get back at her, but all of them were intimidated by her. So I casually mentioned to my school friend that my troop leader was on the Girl Scout Council, and if her and other girl were willing to visit my troop for a meeting, we could potentially work something out. The other girl said that she would provide the pictures she had secretly taken in the hostels. The girls were warned not to take pictures in the hostels, but didn't want to be involved any further than that. My school friend was moving to another state during summer break, decided she had nothing to lose, and came to my troop meeting with her laptop and the flash drive with a copy of the pictures on it from the other girl. My leader was appalled and immediately asked if she could borrow the flash drive so she could present it at the end of the year council meeting. She also promised she would keep our identities a secret. Again, I don't quite know what happened at that council meeting, since it was held during school hours, but from what my leader told me, all heck broke loose, and here's the aftermath. The awful leader was immediately kicked out of the organization and given a lifetime ban. She was stripped of the multiple awards she had earned as an adult. She was forced to pay the $2,000 the council had awarded to her for the trip on top of the $10,000 plus fine she was handed. Girl Scouts takes the safety of their members very seriously. She was nearly charged for child endangerment, but none of the parents of the girls involved wanted to go that far. I still see that leader at the market I work at from time to time and usually says hi and asks how things are going without knowing that I had a hand in getting her banned from Girl Scouts. The next one is titled, Don't Want to Change Your Number and Would Rather Lose Business? No problem. This happened a while back. A local business auto repair shop changed their phone number for some reason, and a few months later when my family added a second phone line to the house, guess which number we were given? It wasn't that much of a pain since most of the customer base had the new number, but about 6 months later we start getting calls for this business several times a day, so I finally ask one of the callers where he got the number from. He tells me it's on top of the business's building in 3-foot-high letters. Really? So I drive by that way the next day and sure enough, there it is in big blue letters. I look up the current number when I get home and give them a call. Hey, I've noticed that you still have your old number on top of your building and we've been getting a lot of your calls. Would it be possible for someone to correct the sign or just paint over it? This is where I get told it's my problem and they don't have the time to deal with it. Click. Oh, okay. Now I see. So I figure it won't take long to sort this out. I start taking appointments. I tell a lady we're having a special on tires. I can get her a complete set for $75, $200 was average. I get a guy that needs a complete rebuild on his transmission, and how soon can we do it? I tell him that since we aren't very busy right now, if he can get it in the shop by noon, I have a guy that can have it done by 6 p.m. the same day, and it'll only cost him $750, super cheap by the way. I do this maybe 20 to 30 times over the course of a week or so. The calls become less frequent, and as I drive by the following week, I notice that the sign is now just plain white. I'm pretty sure that all in all I probably cost this guy about $10,000 or so in upset customers who showed up thinking they had an appointment and a great deal. The next one is titled, Maid Stealing My Belongings? I'll lure her to try stealing my car too. This story happened approximately 4 years ago to a friend of mine. He and his wife, girlfriend back then, took a house loan, bought a new Chevrolet Camaro, and in general they were preparing for a life together. He has proposed to her. Because of their lack of free time due to their hard work to pay off the loan, they didn't have time for themselves, nor for the abnormal amount of other things such as the housework. So they hired a maid. His first impressions about her were good and they decided that she's the person they will trust, and they handled her their house keys because they were at work most of the time she came around to clean their house. First few weeks she worked hard and always paid attention to detail and nicely cleaned their house from the bottom to the very top. She was also instructed not to let anyone in and to always lock the door when she left. After 6 months of her working there, strange things began to happen. Not in any anomalous way, but things started to disappear, being stolen. It all started with small things like AA batteries which are barely noticeable missing. But soon things graduated as phone chargers, perfumes, the more expensive ones, and some electrical gadgets went missing. My friend thought that he simply lost them, but soon the maid raised suspicion as the things went missing when my friend wasn't present when she was detailing their house. But without any evidence blaming her wasn't in place. Also, he found out on some social media that she has got some serious debts, at least in thousands of dollars, aliments, divorce court settlements, etc. So he decided to install security cameras. And he didn't tell the maid. 5 weeks forward and he had enough evidence to press charges on her as the things she stole were valued at $250 plus. In my country anything stolen above $250 is considered a crime. He got furious when his flash disk containing private documents as well as some of his billing and his official work documents were stolen. But he wanted her to get even more into the stealing so he can squish even the last cent out of her. So he came up with a plan. He told the maid that he and his girlfriend will be gone for a week for a honeymoon and that he will be going by taxi not to pay extra money airports charge for the parking. That means his brand new Chevrolet Camaro will stay parked in the house the maid has got keys of. They rented an apartment through Airbnb just a few blocks away from his place and he placed a GPS tracking keychain into his car so he could see when his car is through the phone app. He then placed the car keys in a visible spot on the house so the maid will notice. All that was left is wait for the magic to happen. And his intuition was right. After 2 days of almost constant watching the GPS tracker's location, the car left the garage. All of a sudden the car was cruising at 90 miles per hour on the highway. My friend immediately called the cops. They caught the maid something like 20 miles, 30 km away. And now revenge can take the place. He decided to press charges on the maid. At the court, the maid told the judges my friend told her to drive the car to some untold location. She acted like she forgot where it is, and the one that should go to the jail is him because he wrongly accused her and he just wants to get money from her to pay his loan. But the tables turned. My friend and his lawyer showed the court all of the video evidence of her stealing his stuff valued highly above $250. It was like $40 including the car. So it was a crime. She started swearing and telling every single lie she could think of. The security had to calm her down. She is facing 5 years in jail and she was charged $5 including all the stolen property but the car, his lawyer and some other court staff. The price was excluding the car because it was returned almost immediately. A few days later police did a house check on her and most of the stolen stuff was there. There were also some other things reported missing from other customers of her. Due to her previous debts and the new ones she owes, she will very likely become homeless when gotten out of the jail. The last one is titled, "Won't Cover My Basic Health Insurance." Say bye to your huge contract. The company I work for provides free insurance for all employees. I've been working in my company as a finance manager for 13 years and the company has been dealing with a famous insurance company for the last 10 years, providing insurance policies for employees. In the span of 10 years, I think I must have used my insurance 3 times. I'm a young man, healthy and athletic and didn't really face any health problems. That all changed a couple of months ago when I suddenly gained too much weight and I started having some breathing difficulties. So I went to my doctor who, after the checkup, asked me to do a normal blood test, a cholesterol test, and a vitamin D test. No problem, my insurance will take care of that, or at least that's what I thought. When I submitted the application for approval, they approved the blood test only. I was furious. I went ahead and did all the tests and paid for the ones that the insurance didn't approve. After that incident, I called the broker, who by the way I personally know, and told him what happened. He started making up excuses and defending the insurance company. At the end of our conversation, I told him one thing: make sure to tell them that this mistake will cost them a lot, my company will not renew the contract with them. He started laughing and replied, "It's not up to you to decide if the contract will be renewed or not." I told him, "Oh yes it is." What they didn't know is that my company asked me a couple of days earlier, since I'm the finance guy, to try to find another insurance provider that will give us the same benefits for less or to get a better deal from the same provider. At first, I really didn't want to find another provider since we have been dealing with that company for 10 years. I thought I will be able to get a better price from them. It all changed that Friday afternoon. After the weekend, I started searching for another insurance provider. I got multiple offers and made a comparison table between the current company and all other offers. After 3 weeks of searching and negotiating, I was able to narrow it down to one provider who will give the same benefits for 30% less. I was ecstatic. During the next board meeting, I made a presentation for the shareholders. They were happy that this will save them a lot of money. I'm not gonna give exact figures, but the contract itself is in the order of hundreds of thousands of dollars. After all was agreed, and when the renewal date came, you should have seen the look on the old insurance provider face when they became aware of what happened. They asked for a meeting in our office, and they offered to give a 25% discount for us to stay with them. I declined the offer with a smile on my face and said this would be impossible now because the new contract was signed already. Thanks for listening.